A woman once came to meditate with Ajahn Fuang. She was going to stay for 2 weeks at the monastery. The second day she went to see him and was going to bid farewell and go back home. So he asked her why. I thought you were going to stay for 2 weeks. And she said, well, I can't help but thinking about the people back home. How are they going to fare? They don't have me to fix their food, to keep the house clean, to keep the clothes clean, take care of things around the family. And he said, tell yourself that you've died. They have to look after themselves when you die. So give them some practice now. So for the time being, tell yourself that you've died to the world. You're here, and it's just you, your body, your mind. All other responsibilities, everything that would pull you away right now, you've dropped. It's no longer have any relevance to you. Because there will come a time when that's going to happen, when you have to drop the affairs of the world. And if you haven't had any practice dropping them, it's going to be hard to let go as you're being pushed out of the body. So get some practice now. And then there are those three qualities: ardent, alert, mindful. Mindful here, remember, means the faculty of your memory, your ability to remember what's skillful and what's not skillful, what qualities in the mind you want right now, what qualities in the mind you don't want, how to recognize skillful and unskillful qualities when they do come into the mind, and remembering what to do with them. That's the duty of mindfulness. Alertness is what watches what you're actually doing and the results that you're getting. So we're here in the present moment, not just to enjoy the present moment, to think that the present moment is a wonderful moment. It's a moment where work has to be done. The work of getting the mind under control. So you watch to see what you're actually doing and what the results you're getting. And then ardency is the quality of wanting to do this well, putting forth the effort to do this well. So as soon as you see the mind wandering off, you bring it right back. While you're with the breath, you want to be as sensitive as possible to how it feels. Because the more consistently you're sensitive, the more refined your sensitivity, the more comfortable the breath will get. When there's a sense of ease and well-being in the body, then you try to take advantage of that. Let it spread around throughout the different parts of the body. And this way you can get the mind into concentration. Not by forcing it so much. I mean, there will be an element of force when you bring it back. But then you treat it nicely. The image the Buddha gives is of training an elephant. They have to tie the elephant to a post to make sure it doesn't wander away. And then they feed it nice food, they play flute music. Can you imagine being an elephant, having flute music played for you? Talk nicely to it. So the elephant will realize that being with human beings is not such a bad thing after all. And then when it becomes tamed, they don't have to tie it so tightly to the post, because they know it's not going to wander away. It's the same with training the mind. In the beginning, it's going to rebel, because it is used to going after greed and distress with reference to the world. So you have to keep reminding it, no, stay here, right with the breath, this breath coming in, this breath going out. But then when the breath becomes comfortable, and you begin to see that having comfortable breath sensations running through the body is actually not only pleasant, but it's also good for the body. The breath, the blood circulate well. It's good for your health. And you begin to see how the way you perceive the breath has an effect on how the breath actually flows through the body. I mean, you could perceive the breath simply as air coming in and out through the nose. But that places limitations on what you can do with the breath. Because the air coming in and out through the nose, it's hard to say what kind of breathing is more comfortable than other kinds of breathing. But when you're more aware of the breath as the energy flow in the body, then you realize that you can make a difference by the way you breathe, the way you perceive the breath, the way you perceive the breath energy flowing through the body. Makes a big difference. And this is where it gets interesting. You begin to see the power of the mind's ability to shape things in the present moment. You're not just a passive recipient of things coming in from outside, but the mind plays an active role in shaping its experience. And this is probably one of the most interesting things in life, that you can shape your experience in a way that leads to suffering, it leads to stress, or you can shape it in a way that leads to the end of stress. You have that power. There is that potential. So what are you going to do with that potential? The Buddha recommends that you pursue the path that leads to the end of suffering. Because of all the tasks that exist in the world, this is the one task that actually can reach completion. It's like this building we're in here right now. They talk about how it was completed several years ago. It's not complete. It never will be complete. It always has to be cared for, always has to be looked after. And when our generation leaves, stops working at this building, it's not because the work is done, simply because we run out of energy. You have to pass it on to the next generation and then the next. So even something as solid as this building is never really completed. But as the Buddha said, and as his Arahant disciples have said again and again and again for the past 2,600 years, the work of putting an end to suffering does come to an end, does reach completion. That's the best goal of all. So today's meditation, let it be a step in that direction. See this as an opportunity to explore your breath and to explore your mind, and particularly to see how your mind can make a huge difference right here in the present moment. Years back, I was teaching an outdoor retreat at the monastery, and one of the retreatants had brought a friend. For the friend, it was the first time she'd ever meditated. We were sitting under the trees. It was a cool day, not too cold, just right. There's a gentle breeze coming in through the trees. And physically, it was one of the most pleasant meditation sessions that I'd ever had. When the session was over, the friend opened her eyes and said, "I have never suffered so much in my life." Just sitting there breathing, she could make herself suffer. So you have the choice today. You can make yourself suffer all day long. Nobody's going to stop you, except for your own heedfulness, except for your own concern for your true well-being and happiness. Because what we're trying to do here is bring the mind to the body, to get your awareness to fill the body. And as the glue between the mind and the body, there's going to be a feeling of pleasure. So we're dealing with body, feelings, mind. Those are three of the frames of reference for establishing mindfulness. And in the Buddha's instructions for breath meditation, he shows that you do all these three frames at once. Body, feelings, mind. A little bit of theory first before we have the guided meditation. The Buddha teaches meditation in 16 steps, which are divided into 4 sets of 4, called tetrads. And looking at the list, you might think, well, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. But in practice, that's not how it happens. Because after all, when you're focused on the breath, the body is right there, mind is right there. And there's going to be a feeling, either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. So you've got 3 of those potential frames of reference. operating all at once, gathered right here at the breath. And so when we think about getting these things together, and if they don't come together, the question is, which one is the problem? Is it the breath? Is it the feeling? Is it the mind? So you can explore. You can breathe in different ways to see what kind of breathing would feel better. What kind of feelings of pleasure or pain you can generate by the way you focus on the breath. And then you can also look at the mind. Because when we bring the mind to the meditation, it's not as if we have really dropped all our concerns with the world. They can come in. And they can affect your mood, they can affect your ability to stay focused. And so if the problem is the mind, then the Buddha gives instructions on how to deal with the mind. In terms of the breath, you start out, as he says, discerning short breathing, discerning long breathing. And then you train yourself to breathe in and out, sensitive to the entire body. In other words, you begin to see the breath as a whole body process. And you bring your awareness fully into the present moment. There are two ways you can do that. One, you can think of one spot in the body where the breath emanates from, because the breath doesn't start from outside, it starts from inside the body. After all, it is energy. Without this energy in the body, that air wouldn't come in and go out. So you can think of the breath energy emanating from one spot in the body, going through the whole body. That's one way of being aware of the whole body. The other way is to think of every individual cell breathing in, breathing out, and everybody's equal. You can try holding that perception in mind as well. And see which way of focusing your attention on the whole body works for you right now. And then the Buddha says you calm bodily fabrication, which is his way of saying that you calm the breath. He calls it bodily fabrication because he wants you to become sensitive to the fact that the breath is one of the ways in which you shape your present moment experience. You have the choice in how you breathe. So make the most of that ability to choose. Try to develop some skill in how you calm the breath. You don't stifle it, you don't hold it, but as you get the mind more and more still, more fully in the present moment, fewer and fewer thoughts, then the breath naturally grows calm. Some people have complained. They say that they focus on the breath, and the more they focus on it, the subtler it gets. Well, again, remember, you're supposed to maintain full body awareness. So even if the full body seems still, that's perfectly fine. There is such a thing as still breath energy. In fact, as that gets more and more still, and you're more and more clearly here, you begin to see the mind a lot more clearly as well. So those are the steps for dealing with problems of the breath. As for feelings, say there's a pain in one part of the body. For the time being, don't focus on the pain. Focus on the parts of the body that you can breathe in a way to give rise to a sense of ease, pleasure, even fullness. The word piti, which is sometimes translated as rapture, can also be translated as refreshment or sense of fullness. So learn how to breathe in a way that gives rise to a sense of ease and well-being, fullness in the body. And then you become sensitive to how the feeling has an impact on the mind. What kind of feelings help the mind to calm down? What kind of feelings energize the mind when it needs to be energized? This is called mental fabrication. The other type of mental fabrication is the perceptions. We talked just now about different ways of perceiving the breath energy in the body. There are lots of ways you can perceive its flow. You breathe in. If you feel like you're getting a headache, Think of the flow of the energy going down as you breathe in. Down the spine, out the tailbone, into the ground. Or down the throat, into the chest, and then out the area in front of the heart, to reduce the pressure in your head. You can perceive the breath flowing down when you need it to. If you're lacking in energy, you can perceive the breath flowing up from the base, from the soles of the feet, up the legs, up the spine. There's lots to play with here. Someone the other day complained about, it seems like we're using our imagination. Well, of course we're using our imagination. Our perceptions are the way we image the world to ourselves. And we want to explore the power of that power of imagery. Because we cannot recognize anything in the world without this ability to create an image in the mind, whereby we can recognize what's what. And here we're looking at different ways of imaging the breath to ourselves and see what impact the different images have. And then the final step there is to find ways of imaging the breath and focusing on feelings that calm the mind. This is called calming mental fabrication. So again, the Buddha is pointing to the role that you play in shaping your experience right now. In this case, through the feelings you focus on and the perceptions or images that you hold in the mind. And of course, the breath meditation instructions themselves are what would be called verbal fabrication, how you talk to yourself as you try to get these things to settle down. This becomes especially clear when we think about the third factor, the mind itself. The Ajahns will often say, as you sit down to meditate, take stock of your state of mind right now. Are you angry about something? Are you missing something? Desiring something? Are your thoughts going to the past? Are they going to the future? And if you find any imbalance in the mind like this, if the mind is leaning in any of these directions, forward or back, left or right, get it to sit tall, ready to focus. And the Buddha recommends 3 ways of doing this. One way is gladdening the mind. To remind yourself, it's good that you're here meditating. It's a good use of the day. And this is good work that you're doing. And it's rare to have this opportunity, so make the most of it. You can also gladden yourself when you start getting depressed. It's the middle of the afternoon, the mind hasn't settled down yet, and you start getting critical of yourself. And the Buddha has you remind yourself of the good that you've done in the past, that you do have some goodness to you. Otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. Think of your generosity, think of your virtue. Think of any of your good qualities. To give yourself encouragement. This is called gladdening the mind. And then you concentrate the mind. Find ways of thinking, find ways of talking to yourself that get the mind more and more interested in the breathing process, more and more interested in how you can experiment with different perceptions about the breath. Realizing you're not here simply putting the mind through a meat grinder or putting it in a straitjacket. In other words, you're not asked to follow a method without thinking, just follow, do what you're told. You're here with the chance to explore, to experiment. It's through experimentation that we learn, and the knowledge becomes ours. We're not just memorizing insights that we've learned from somebody else. We're actually observing cause and effect, and especially our actions as causes and the effects they have in the present moment. And that should be the most fascinating thing in the world. Exploring this power that we have in the present moment. And finally, if you see that there's something that's weighing the mind down, try to talk to yourself in ways that release you from that weight. Again, if thinking about responsibilities back home, you can tell yourself, well, someday I'm going to die. So let's get some practice in putting things down. Suppose I had to die right now. What would I do? What would hold me back? If there's something holding you back, that's going to be like a chain, or as John Lee says, it's like a magnet that you've left in the world. It's going to pull you right back. So what can you do to demagnetize the world? Think in those ways, and then the mind will be more and more inclined to want to come back right here. So this is how you use the Buddha's instructions on breath meditation. Use them as guides to when the mind does settle down, what to do with it when you settle down. When it doesn't settle down, how you can analyze the problem. You do this by developing 4 qualities related to the breath, related to the feelings, related to the mind itself. First, of course, is the desire to do this well. We hear again and again and again that desire is a bad thing. But not all desires are the cause of suffering. Some desires are part of the path. The desire to get the mind into concentration is a good desire. Just make sure you focus it on the causes and not just on the effects that you want. The desire to do this well, desire to stay with each breath. And talk to yourself into wanting to stay with each breath. That leads to the second basis for success, which is persistence. You stick with this. There's a story they tell in the United States. There was a Zen master in the Midwest, and one of his students came to him one day and said, I want to go out to Hollywood and try my luck. And the Zen master said, what happens if they knock you down? And the student said, I guess I'll just have to accept that. And the Zen master said, no, they knock you down, you get back up again. They knock you again, they get back up again. You don't give up. I think about the Buddha. You know, if he had stayed with his first teacher, and the teacher said, well, this is as good as it gets. If the Buddha had just accepted the first teacher's teachings, we never would have had a Buddha. But he told himself, this isn't good enough. He went to a second teacher, studied that teacher's teachings, and realized this isn't good enough either. He went off and practiced austerities for 6 years. Realized this wasn't getting results either. At that point he might have given up. But he didn't give up. He said, there must be a way. What could that be? It was then that he thought of the time when he was a child and the mind had spontaneously gotten into the first jhana as he sat under a tree. Could that be the way? Something inside him said, yes. So he gave it a try. It turned out that was the way. So it's his persistence that enabled him to become Buddha. And if we want to gain similar results, we have to develop similar qualities. The third quality is intentness. In other words, you pay full attention to what you're doing. And this includes not only the fact that you don't let your mind wander away, but also you don't keep thinking about, well, down at the end of the path it must be like this, it must be like that. Don't spend your time looking for the end of the path. Look at the step you're taking right now and make sure that this step is well taken. In the United States there's a national park, Zion National Park, and it has a rock fin that comes out from the canyon wall called Angel's Landing. And the climb there is very steep. I went up there one time. And going up wasn't hard. The hard part was coming down. Because as you were coming down, you looked at the step places in the rock. And if you slipped, it was 800 feet down to the canyon bottom. So you couldn't think about, gee, how many more steps do I have to take on this steep rock face? You just focused on each step one at a time. Made sure you made each step a good step. That's how you get down. That's how you get to safety. So focus on each breath one at a time. Give it your full attention. And then finally, there's the quality, in Pali it's called vimamsa. It's a hard term to translate. In Thai they translate it as circumspection. But basically it means all of your mental faculties. If the results you're getting are not good, then you use your ingenuity to figure out, well, why is it not going good? Pay attention to it. And then what would be a better way to do it? Again, the Buddha kept running into things that didn't work, and so he had to use his imagination. What might work now? What might work now? Now we have the advantage that there have been people who followed this path before us. So there's got to be a way out. Tell yourself, the problems you're having in your mind are not problems that no one has ever had before. We read some of the biographies of the Ajahns, and it sounds like they were arahants as soon as they came out of the womb. But that's not the case. They had to deal with just the same defilements that we have. And they were able to solve them. And they were not superhuman beings. Simply that they had the desire to do this well, stuck with it, gave it their full attention, and also all of their ingenuity, their imagination, all of their circumspection. This is how you succeed. So with those thoughts in mind, let's have a guided meditation. Focus on your breath, which I hope you've been doing already. And try long breathing for a while to see how it feels. Notice where you feel the breath most clearly. Focus your attention there. And try to keep it steadily there so you can decide when the breath is long enough or when it gets too long. And then begin to adjust it accordingly. You can also adjust it as to being deep or shallow, heavy, light, fast, slow. Experiment for a while to see what feels best. Or you can simply pose the question in the mind, what kind of breathing would feel good now? And see how the body responds. And then judge how it responds. Does it actually feel good? If the body doesn't seem to know what to do on its own, you can experiment consciously until you find a rhythm that feels good. Notice you're using your faculty of judgment. We talked about this the other night. The Buddha doesn't teach you to be non-judging. In fact, the whole path is one about developing your powers of judgment. So they're wise powers of judgment, making good choices. And right now, no one else can peer into your head, peer into your body to tell you that you're doing it right or doing it wrong. You have to decide for yourself what feels good right now. Now, as the breath gets comfortable, there can be a tendency for the range of your awareness to shrink, or to drift off, or to focus on the comfort and to forget about the breath. Remember, the breath is our foundation. If we drop our foundation, we're floating for a while and then begin to blur out. So then the next step, once you've found a comfortable rhythm of breathing, is to be aware of the whole body. As you breathe in, the whole body as you breathe out. And to build up to that whole body awareness, it's good to go through the body first, section by section, to familiarize yourself with how the breathing process feels in the different parts of the body. After all, it is part of the wind element, and the wind element fills the body. And all the other aspects of the wind element are related to the in and out breath. So a good place to start is down around the navel. Locate that part of the body in your awareness. Watch it for a while as you breathe in, breathe out to see what rhythm of breathing feels good there. And then if there's any sense of tension or tightness in that part of the body, allow it to relax so that no new tension builds up as you breathe in, and you don't hold on to any tension as you breathe out. Now bring your attention up to the solar plexus and follow the same 3 steps there. 1, locate that part of the body in your awareness. 2, watch it for a while as you breathe in, breathe out to see what rhythm of breathing feels good there. And then 3, if there's any sense of tension or tightness, allow it to relax. Now bring your attention to the middle of the chest and follow the same steps there. Now move your attention over to the right, to the area where the chest and the shoulder meet. And then to the same spot on the left. Then move your attention to the base of the throat. Then bring your attention to the middle of the head. As you breathe in, think of the breath energy coming in not only through the nose, but also through the eyes, the ears, in from the back of the head, down from the top of the head, going deep into the brain. And as you breathe out, think of the breath energy radiating out from the head in all directions. Gently working through any patterns of tension you may feel around the eyes, the forehead, the jaws, the back of the neck, and dissolving those patterns of tension away. Now bring your attention to the back of the neck, right at the base of the skull. As you breathe in, think of the breath energy entering there. And then going down through the neck, through the shoulders, the arms, the fingers, the spaces between the fingers. And then as you breathe out, think of it radiating out from all those parts of the body into the air. As you become more sensitive to these parts of the body, if you notice that you're holding more tension in one side than the other, allow that side to relax. Then see if you can keep it relaxed all the way through the in-breath, all the way through the out. Now keeping your attention focused to the back of the neck. This time as you breathe in, think of the breath energy entering there. And this time going down both sides of the spine, down to the tailbone. And as you breathe out, think of it radiating out from the entire back into the air. And here again, if you're holding more tension in one side of the back than the other, allow that side to relax, to bring things into balance. And see if you can keep it relaxed all the way through the in-breath, all the way through the out. Now bring your attention down to the base of the spine. As you breathe in, think of the breath energy entering there, and then going down through the hips, the legs, the ankles, the feet, the toes, spaces between the toes. And as you breathe out, think of it radiating out from all those parts of the body into the air. And here again, if you're holding more tension in one leg than the other, allow it to relax, to bring things into balance. And see if you can keep it relaxed as you breathe in, as you breathe out. And that completes one cycle in the survey of the body. As you go through the day, you can survey the body as many times as you like, at your own pace. If you find any one spot seems to be responding to your focus, in other words, any tension there dissolves away and dissolves away and dissolves away, stay with that spot before you move on. And you go through the body as many times as you like until you're ready to settle down. Then choose any one spot that seems most congenial to focus on. Allow your attention to settle there, and then from that spot to spread out to fill the whole body. So you're with the whole body breathing in, the whole body breathing out. Actually, what you're doing is taking the awareness that's already in the body and connecting it to that focal spot. Now the range of your awareness may have a tendency to shrink. So keep reminding yourself, whole body as you breathe in, whole body as you breathe out. This centered but broad awareness is healing for the body, healing for the mind. It's like being a spider in the web. The spider is in one spot, but it's sensitive to the entire web. And because you're still, but with a broad awareness, all-around awareness, this provides a good foundation for insights into the mind to arise. But for the time being, don't worry about the insights. What you need is a solid foundation first. So stick with this as best you can. If you find your awareness is beginning to blur out, things are becoming unclear, go back to the survey of the body. Or you can try focusing on two spots at the same time. Say the middle of the head and the base of the spine, with a line connecting the two. Give equal weight to both spots. That may also help wake you up. As for any pains that may come from sitting long times, it depends on how well your concentration can be maintained in spite of the pain. If the pain is there, but you're able to maintain your focus in another part of the body, sit with it. And then think of the good breath energy in the spot, in the area where you're focused, spreading out and going down through the pain and out the other side. That's one of the first steps in learning how to deal with pain in a meditation. If, however, the pain is making it hard to stay focused on the breath, then very mindfully change your posture. Try to stay with the breath as you're moving your legs, as you're adjusting your spine. Basically breaking the body in to this posture. What's happening is that the blood that ordinarily goes through the veins and the arteries, or the large ones, is now being forced into the capillaries. It's like the superhighways in KL, suddenly breaking down and all the traffic has to go into the small streets. The difference here, though, is that as you start pushing the blood through the capillaries, it may be painful to begin with, but gradually the capillaries will begin to widen until they become large arteries and veins as well. As for walking meditation, remember the purpose of walking meditation is to be able to maintain your focus even as the body moves. It's a step in the direction of being able to maintain your focus on your breath in all your activities. So, try to make the breath the focus as you walk. And again, think of the breath energy flowing through the body, finding a spot that's congenial to focus on in the body. It's usually when you're walking, a good place to focus is the middle of the chest. Try to walk at a fairly normal pace. Choose a path that has at least 25 to 30 steps. If you're in a small room, you can make your path shaped like an L or like a U. If the path is too short and you're walking at a normal pace, you start getting dizzy, turning around. So start at one end of the path and tell yourself you will always step with one side first, either left or right. When you reach the end of the path, stop for a second. Make sure you're focused with your breath. If you're not, bring your attention back to the breath. Then turn again. Tell yourself you will always turn either to the right or to the left. Then walk to the other end of the path and repeat the same process back and forth. Do your best to stay focused on the breath. The image they give in the canon is of a man with a bowl of oil filled to the brim on top of his head. And he's walking through an area where there's a beauty queen on one side singing and dancing, and there's a crowd of people on the other side excited by the beauty queen singing and dancing, and he has to walk between them. Behind him is a man with a sword raised, and if the man drops even one drop of oil, the man behind him is going to cut off his head. What this stands for, of course, is that you have to keep focused on your body, regardless of what other things might attract you outside. The beauty queen stands for interesting sights, sounds, smells, taste, tactile sensations, ideas. The crowd stands for the mind's reaction to sights, sounds, taste, etc. And you've got to stay with the breath. So at the end of each walking meditation, I want to make sure everybody in here still has their heads on. So maintain your focus as best you can. Now the time has come for the monks to go have their meal.
Brothers and sisters, let us pay our respects to Dhamma-inspired and the members of the Sangha before they take leave.